break up. Now every day I wake up, somebody got a problem with hope. What's up, y'all niggas all fed up cause I got a little cheddar and my record's moving out the store.
There it is, straight out of New York City, a bit of Jay-Z representing, and there's good reason for us, Ice Cream, putting Jay-Z on, back with Fantasy Hoops. We've got a special guest who hopefully is going to be a bit of a regular for us this season, straight out of New York City, straight out of the place where it's all happening. We've got Nick Metallinos coming from Starting5.com.au. Nick, welcome to Fantasy Hoops Podcast, G-Funk and Ice Cream here. What's going down, man?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thanks for having me on, guys. And extra props for the choice of track right there. The heart of the city sums it right up.
He's caught it straight away. So Nick's is probably the only full-time Australian NBA journalist sitting in the hood in the US of A right now. He's embedded in the scene. Nick, we've seen you putting pictures up with bloody Jay-Z. We've seen you with Beyonce. You're hanging with D-Rose, sipping gin with Homicide. You're doing all sorts of shit over there. So tell us what's going down in New York City. What are you doing there? You got Starting 5 going on. Give us a heads up on what's up.
Look, guys, the main reason for me being over here is obviously to cover the NBA, but being in the city, you get sidetracked with a few things, and a few red carpet events happen to pop up on the agenda, and, you know, you have to attend these things. If you get the invite, you have to go. But I haven't met Beyonce yet, unfortunately.
You haven't met her yet. Hopefully not too...
It's probably a good thing for her.
Not too far off. Now, Ice Cream's been keen to find out about the celebrity status going on. He'll have some questions for you coming up about your red carpet activities. But Starting 5, tell us what's going on with Starting5.com.au. Great website. We know you were focusing on the Aussie League, but you've taken a big look at the NBA now. What's going on down there? Tell us about what's happening with Starting 5.
Yeah, definitely. Look, I mean, Starting 5, we looked at to cover the culture of basketball and anything that it sort of involves, be it the fashion, the music, obviously the NBL and the NBA, the major components of what we do. We'd like to keep an eye out on what the major Aussies in the league are doing. Unfortunately, there's only two of us over there at the moment, being Andrew Bogut and Paddy Mills. But we'd like to keep an eye out on what they're doing. But the major reason for moving over is to... it's like you mentioned before, I don't think there is any other Australian journalists covering the NBA over here full-time. I know in New York there definitely isn't. And to my knowledge, I don't think there is any around the US. So I'm trying to give the Australian readers an inside perspective of what's going on in the league over here.
Mate, even if there were, I don't think it'd matter, because I think the way you're rolling at the moment, you'd be trumping them anyway.
Yeah, I don't think there's much competition there.
I have to agree with you.
Now, Nick, we know you've been covering the league as well, but you've also been checking out the street ball circuit down there in NYC. You know, it's a pretty good breeding ground for getting the vibe and atmosphere on what's going on the lowdown. What's the news?
Look, the street ball here, it's great just to experience it in person, because obviously, I mean, if you follow basketball as closely as what we do, and I imagine your listeners do as well, you know the mystique surrounding New York City and the history behind it. It's obviously the mecca of hoops, as they say, and the playground history has been a breeding ground for a lot of NBA stars. I mean, Dr. J's come through, Wilt Chamberlain, Connie Hawkins, Skip to My Lou's probably the most famous one.
Come on, man! You got to say Smush Parker. Come on,
Smush Parker. Yeah, we forgot about. I've had actually a couple of conversations with him over the summer, and actually, Smush is a really, really good dude.
Are you serious? Well, let's digress a bit. You know, let's pull it to the side here, because we know there's beef going on right now with Smush and Kobe. Kobe calling him out, saying he's probably the worst player, and that's why the Phoenix Suns beat him in the playoffs back in the day. Smush has come back and, had a 9-minute rant. Kobe's come back and just laughed it off. So what's the dealio, man? What's going on?
Look, obviously we don't know what happened between those two, because for Kobe to still harbour some lingering feelings, 7 years on, you've got to say that something deeper than just on... or something deeper than that happened. Obviously, none of us are in the locker room, especially around that time, so we can't really comment on that. But all I can say is that, judging by Kobe's past history and the story that used to hear, what Smush said is not entirely out of line. I mean, Kobe was never known to be the best teammate. He wasn't known to be very forthcoming to newer players and all that sort of stuff. But Kobe was the one that initiated this, and that's what's so surprising to me, that He's a 5-time champion, 2-time finals MVP, a league MVP. Why is he still bringing up Smush 7 years later? I think it's time for him to move on.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, man, does it?
No, not at all. Not at all. And the thing is, he's continuously been doing it. And now that Smush finally defended himself, and everyone's criticising Smush for speaking up. So, look, like I said, I actually sat with Smush down at the West 4th Street courts over the summer on a couple of occasions. Just had a nice little informal friendly chat with him, and he's actually the nicest guy you will ever meet.
Yeah, what sort of kicks was he rocking, man?
Didn't notice.
Oh, you didn't notice?
I didn't notice. He wasn't wearing basketball sneaks. I know that much.
All right, well let's hit it up with these leagues going on out, summer leagues and what have you. What's the quality like compared to what we're going to see on the NBA? Is it a different game, or is it a good league for bringing up some young talent?
It's hard to answer this because a lot of people, when you think street ball, people automatically think of the and one.
The and one
and people
street
doing
circuit.
trick shots and taking 8 steps before they go for a layup and all that sort of stuff. And it's totally not that. What it is, it's an actual league with the same rules, same regulations, same everything as an indoor league, except it's played outside. That's basically the only difference. So the quality of the league, I mean, you get NBA guys coming through here for a run. You've got up-and-coming college stars coming through for a run. Pros that play internet. I mean, Gary Irvin, too hard to guard. Homicide, obviously, play a big part in these things. Guys that are playing professionally in Israel, Greece, Italy. These guys come through and have a run. So the level of competition is high, and people do take it seriously. But they're not running set plays, and they're not executing plays like you would see in a professional league around the world. A lot of it is just isolation plays. Give it to the guy that's hot and let him work his magic.
Now, we know you were at a game earlier in the year, Nick, and watching the game, chilling out, gunshots start ringing, New York, people scattering. What the hell's going on over there, man? What are you doing?
We're running for our lives. We were actually, look, to be honest, it wasn't as scary as I thought it would be. I mean, don't get me wrong, anytime a gun goes off and it's only 3 meters away from you, you are definitely going to feel some sort of fear. But, I mean, we were already walking off the park because we sensed trouble brewing, and I'd seen Homicide walk off, so I started walking off as well. And we got about 5 meters away, and then we just heard the gunshots, and everyone just went scrambling.
Damn.
We ran to the back of the park. And then we heard another round of gunshots, about another 2 or 3, I think. And then we just everybody completely evacuated that area, that section of Harlem where Rucker Park is. It had gone empty, in a matter of seconds. Next thing you know, I think every police car in New York City was up in Harlem. Lieutenants were there, captains. The whole police force was up there. So it was actually very surreal, but it wasn't as scary. I wasn't as scared as I thought I would be in that situation.
So that's your initiation into NYC.
Yeah, I'm a New Yorker now.
Pizza and gunshots. That's the way it rolls. That's the way it rolls.
So that's how you clear the court and manage to get a bit of time on there, Nick.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, even the bench players, everybody cleared the court. So there was no one left.
Now, we know you're rocking it in NYC, and we know you've got a lot of love out there for, let's say, everybody's favourite New York Knicks, but you've had to digress a little bit and start concentrating on... Now, I'm not going to insult you and call them the New Jersey Nets, because now they're known as Brooklyn. How's the insight going there with the new franchise in Brooklyn, Nick?
Yeah, look, I tell you what, I've been coming to New York back and forth over the last 5-6 years. And obviously during that time, the Nets, with the exception of maybe one of those years, I think they made the playoff, they haven't had a very good team. Not that New York has, but the Nets definitely haven't had a good team. But now that you get a sense in the city, and I've mentioned this, I wrote an article on this about 3 or 4 weeks ago for Starting5. Every week you look in the city now, it's black and white.
If they've taken over, you reckon they're going to be blowing away the Knicks fans?
Look, New York is still a Knicks city, and I think it will always be a Knicks city. Where I think the Knicks are in a precarious position at the moment is they might lose a chunk of their fan base because a lot of people are growing tired of the James Dolan regime. They're growing tired of bad moves, bad, salary cap management. Not making the playoffs or making the playoffs and going out in the first round. So I think if the Knicks struggle again this season and the Nets do well, that's the key. The Nets need to do well, because if they struggle as well, then you might as well stick with the Knicks.
What are your thoughts on Grunwald? Because we know he's been very active. The Knicks are an old side, but that one thing they have done this off-season is they've moved a lot of players around. They brought in Marcus Camby, they brought in Ronnie Brewer, they brought in who else? They brought in last week?
Jason Kidd. How can you
Jay Kidd's there. Lynn's gone. They brought in Pablo Priglioni from Italy, who's a past first point guard. So they've done all those things because they want to win now.
They're bringing Bernard King back too.
Bernard King's coming back. They're starting White. Yeah, there you go. Thanks for that. So, what are your thoughts on total wins? I mean, who's going to win? Who's going to win the season on total wins? 82 games. What are we looking at for these guys?
I don't think the Knicks, have a very good team. And I hate to say it because I know you're a Knicks fan.
Oh, we got to be impartial and balanced as reporters and journalists.
Yeah, you try. I don't think the Knicks have a very good team. I think on paper Brooklyn has a better team, top to bottom. I think Brooklyn will win more games than New York.
Right, there's the call. Brooklyn more games than New York.
It's the unbiased
But
call.
in saying that, I don't see either one of these teams getting past the first round.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, if anything, Brooklyn, might, depending on how high they finish during the regular season, they might sneak a second round, but they're not getting further than that.
Okay, possibly a sneaky second.
And the composition of Brooklyn's roster this year, Nick, takes a little bit of an interesting look with... You've got now the addition of Joe Johnson alongside Deron Williams, Jared Wallace, Chris Humphries, and hopefully a healthy Brook Lopez back. A couple of complementary pieces, Andre Blanche, Marshawn Brooks coming on, as well as CJ Watson and Josh Childress.
Yep.
Quite a bit of depth there for Brooklyn, you'd say, this year, Nick?
Relatively, because in reality, you've got to think which one of those guys is going to come off the bench and contribute. I mean, Avery Johnson... I was lucky enough to attend the Nets media day last week, and Avery Johnson mentioned that he's not going to have Deron Williams and Joe Johnson off the court at the same time. He wants at least one of them on the court at all times, which sort of goes to show you that he doesn't have as much faith in that second unit to get the job done over a 48-minute period as you would like. Marshawn Brooks is good. They've got Jerry Stackhouse as well, but I mean, he's about, 35, 36, something like that.
I thought he was 60.
Childress is not known as a scorer. So, I think they're going to require one of their two stars to be on court at all time just to get those points on the board.
All right, we've seen some major moves coming in some of the teams. Top-end teams making some big moves. Obviously, the Lakers, which we'll talk about. The Thunder didn't do too much. They drafted some nice talent through the draft. We've got San Antonio and Dallas both getting old and struggling a little bit. Who are the other teams that you think are sort of thereabouts that, are going to make a real run this year? We've got Chicago. D. Rose may not play this year with the knee.
No, even if he plays, they're not going to make a serious run. They won't make a serious run. They weren't going to make a serious run. I'm a Bulls fan, so the last 2 years they weren't going to make a serious run despite what their regular season record said, because they rely too much on Rose. They need a second consistent scorer that can create his own shot off the dribble. Because as you saw in the Miami series in 2011, LeBron just absolutely smothered D. Rose, and there was no one left, to pick up the slack from there. So Chicago, never really an option with a healthy D. Rose. If you ask me, I think they're better off tanking this season, keep Derek out all year, lose enough games to get back in the lottery and retool, maybe pick up a good young guy the following year and move forward from there.
Now, out of all the knee injuries that went out late last year, we had D. Rose, we had Jeremy Lin injured, we had Baron Davis do his knee, we had who else do we have?
Shumpert.
We had Shumpert do his knee. Now, out of all those guys, Rose seems to be the one that's struggling the most to come back. So, from a fantasy perspective, if you're not in a keeper league, you probably don't really want to look at picking him up this year because there's so many question marks about whether he's coming back or not.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there was talk that he might be back just after the All-Star break, but stories have broken in the last week or so that the Bulls are considering keeping him out for the season. So, like I said, they'd be better off doing that.
Now, the acquisitions in the off-season, you've touched on them earlier, G, we all know that, but the marquee team that's managed to snare what most people thought was uncomparable was Steve Nash. The Lakers, Nick. Now, they've got to be a formidable task this year. Come on, you have to admit it.
The Lakers.
The Lakers, mate. They've got depth. They've got a lot of starting players that can get the job done. Can you see them challenging Miami for the title?
Oh, definitely, no doubt. When you've got that much talent, that much firepower on one roster, they will challenge. I don't think they get past OKC though. Still, I don't think they're good enough. I think there's too many questions surrounding the Lakers. Is Howard going to be fully healthy? Are they going to be able to gel? Is Steve Nash back going to hold out the whole season? Is Kobe willing to accept a lesser role? I know he's not going to start averaging 15 points, but he's going to have to, give up some of his shots on court. So there's a lot of questions surrounding the Lakers. But then you look at OKC, Kendrick Perkins, one of the best low post defenders in the league, one-on-one. He could definitely play Howard straight up. Kevin Durant, the Lakers have got no answer. No one in the league's got an answer for Kevin Durant, and they're still younger, more athletic than the Lakers. So I still give OKC the edge, but in saying that, the Lakers could definitely get past them. It's not improbable.
So you're calling out OKC out of the Western Conference, and who are you calling out of the Eastern Conference?
Miami.
Miami Heat.
Miami.
Yeah.
No one coming close to the Heat.
Yeah. Maybe Boston. I think Miami and Boston are the only two legitimate contenders out of the East.
All right.
Legitimate contenders.
Now, we got any other sneaky teams that you're keeping an eye on? The lesser-liked teams that potentially might make a little bit of a dent?
You know who I like? I like the Nuggets. And a lot of people have said that. I think the Nuggets have done a really good job. I think JaVale McGee, for some reason, is actually playing well with the Nuggets.
For some reason.
Surprise.
It could be the altitude, it could be George Karl, who knows what it is, but he's making less bonehead plays while he's in Denver for some reason. But they've got a good squad. They've got Iguodala now. Ty Lawson is a good point guard. They're well coached. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with. They could definitely upset one of the bigger teams in a 7-game series. We've spoken about
Lawson. We've spoken about Iguodala. Really strong, versatile players. Wilson Chandler probably takes a bit of a
another
hit.
one.
Although he can put some definite numbers up off the bench. So I think we probably agree that the Nuggets are a sneaky, dangerous side sitting there. Yeah,
definitely, without a doubt. Like I said, I don't see him getting to the Western Conference Finals, but they could cause an upset, maybe two.
Now, all that conjecture about the shortened season last year, there was a negative impact on the fans. We had a great final series. Has that all been forgotten now over in the US, in New York, the mecca of basketball? Is it business as usual now?
Yeah, you can sense that straight away. As soon as I was here for the draft, so I was lucky enough to attend the draft as well, and it was all about focusing to the future rather than looking back. It was just business as normal.
Now, have you got any?
I don't think I've heard the lockout mentioned very, very minimally, if at all.
What are your thoughts on the rookie talent coming through this year?
Funny you mentioned that. I was having a conversation with another journalist over here a couple of days ago. I think the Celtics might get the steal of the draft in Jared Sullinger. He dropped because there was issues. There was concern about his back. I think he dropped to about 17th or 18th or something like that. But he is looking really good in preseason. I think the Celtics might have got a steal with that one there.
And you think he's going to get some minutes?
Yeah, I think he will.
Damn. He did slip off the board a fair bit, yeah.
He did slip off the board a bit, which is pretty interesting. What about they re-signed over there Jeff Green as well in Boston? So
you know what? People forget he was out the whole season last year.
He was out a whole season. He's a great player. So what are you expecting from Green?
I expect him to have a really good season. I expect everyone in Boston to have a really good season. They're well coached. They've got a nice mix of some youth and some veterans. KG. The thing with Boston is health. If they can keep healthy, they'll do some damage. They took Miami to 7 games in the conference finals last year, and I think they got better this year. So that'll be one to watch if healthy.
So Sullinger's your 6'9" power forward from Columbus, Ohio. Probably will get a lot of minutes there at the moment. Potentially, if he plays well and gets some good numbers early on.
Yeah, definitely, without a doubt. And like I said, I think Doc Rivers is looking to blood a bit of the youth in there to spell, KG and Brandon Bass and all the other older guys throughout the not that Bass is old, but what I mean, throughout the season. He's got to get a nice little rotation happening.
He's getting there. Now, Nick, we know that you've been hitting the red carpet. We've seen you going to these gala openings. We've seen you hanging with D-Rose, sipping gin with the players. We've seen you hitting the streets with Homicide. You're at the ballparks. Come on, man. What's the biggest event you've been to over there so far, and what's coming up on the radar you can tell us about?
Biggest event was probably the NBA 2K13 launch party.
And who was hanging at that party?
It was at Jay-Z's 4040 Club in Manhattan. D-Rose, I mean, we were lucky enough to be in the VIP area, so D-Rose, Derrick Rose was there, Kevin Durant came through, Brook Lopez, Chris Humphries was there, there's a whole bunch of rappers. Jay-Z came through, Talib Kweli, Fred the Godson. There's a whole bunch of celebrities up there, so it was quite an awesome night. Open bar, which always helps.
Nice. And what are the NBA players like behind the scenes? You know, when you got them in these more relaxed environments, you know, guys like D-Rose, pretty chilled out, but what are they like overall?
The only one that I actually had a genuine conversation with was D-Rose. The others were just sort of brief, take a photo and sort of move on. But D-Rose, I had a nice little chat with him for a couple of minutes, but nice guy, as you would imagine. Top bloke, real laid back. Wished him well, as a Bulls fan, but as a basketball fan as well. Wished him well in his recovery.
Now, was he walking with a limp? Can you tell the listeners? Was he walking with a limp? How was he? Not
at all. Not at all.
Not at all.
He was walking perfectly.
Well, that's a good sign that his walking gait's not been affected, which means hopefully over time he'll make a full recovery.
Yeah. Oh, look, I think he will, but it's just a matter of time, like you said. I think it's just getting it right, because for a guy that relies so much on explosiveness and athleticism, you don't want to risk bringing him back early and doing some, possibly permanent damage.
Yeah, that ACL injury is a nasty one, and people forget that you actually need 9 months for the graft to take to the bone. It's as good as a broken bone. So whilst they're walking around, right? Yeah.
He's saying that he's feeling good and he's ahead of schedule, but you don't want to risk it with something like that.
Yeah. Now, what do you got coming up on the calendar, Nick? We know you've got a couple of big events coming up, and you're not want to blow your own trumpet, but we are. So tell us what's on the scene.
I've got the Beats by Dre party to attend next week. I don't know if any celebrities are attending. I would imagine there would be some, but that's at some point next week. I'm not sure of the exact date. But NBA preseason, the Nets are playing tonight in Atlantic City, but the first home game at the Barclays Arena is on Monday night, and then I think they've got a game on Wednesday, and then again next Friday or Saturday. So next week can be busy, back to work in NBA preseason. Time to get into it again.
Now we're going to have we're having a couple of weeks off after this because I'm going to scout in China, but we're going to come back in a couple of weeks' time and hopefully pull you in again. What are your movements for the year in terms of following the NBA? Where can listeners find you, hear about you, know what's going on, follow your tracks? Where's it all at?
Obviously, the main one's going to be on starting5.com.au. I'm going to be going to pretty much all the Nets and the Knicks home games, unless a game clashes or something like that. But that'll be the main one. We'll be doing a few, game reports and that sort of thing on the site. You can follow us on Twitter at Starting5Online. So that's Starting5 Online.
Nice.
And my personal one at Nick Metallinos. And we'll be keeping you up to date with all the red carpet events via my personal account, all the basketball events via the Starting5 account.
Now, what we love is it's not just the ball with you. You're about the lifestyle. You're about the kicks. You're about the jerseys. You're about going to the events. You're mixing it up.
Culture.
You're not reporting it like a Dundee sitting there in the studio. You're actually getting your hands dirty. So, whose jersey are you going to be rocking this year, and what kicks you reckon are the ones you're going to be starting off with the season?
To be perfectly honest, jerseys, I don't rock them anymore. I'm a little bit old for that. I'm 31 now, so give me a crisp pair of jeans and some button-ups and I'm fine. But,
you know what we're going to do? We're going to send you a brand new Eddie Curry at San Antonio jersey and expect you to be rocking that.
I think he's rocking the number 52 as well from what I saw.
And the kicks, what are the kicks going on over there now? Obviously, you're a big fan of the kicks. Yeah, we know you got a big collection. Not quite as big as J.R. Smith, but what are you rocking on the scene over there now?
The LeBrons, actually. I've spoken to somebody at Nike, so I got the LeBron 10s coming my way next week. So that'll be definitely going straight on feet. And Jordans, it seems like there's some new Jordans coming out every week, especially over here. So You can't go wrong. They're the staples.
Now, before
Jays and LeBrons.
Jays and LeBrons, there's the call.
Yeah, we don't do Kobe's.
Now, what about the Wades, man? We've heard some, Wade's moved over. He's gone to a new scene. He's got some new kicks. He's got a big contract. What's going on there?
Yeah, it shocked, a lot of people in the industry by sort of defecting from Jordan Brand, signed with Li Ning. I mean, they're an emerging company, but they're not very well known. They haven't got a stronghold in the footwear market. They're trying to break through. I guess Dwayne Wade is a way of doing that. The whole world knows who Dwayne Wade is. And look, no one knows the exact terms of the contract. But I think Mark Stein from ESPN mentioned it was something like $10 million over 10 seasons. So if you're Dwayne Wade, it's pretty hard to turn down.
That's gonna be making him money through the time he hits 40 years old.
Yep. And I mean, especially with this, his style of play, and he's had some injuries in the past. He doesn't really know how much longer he's got in the NBA. So if you can keep that check coming for another decade or so, then best of luck to you.
Ching, 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 ching.
Yeah, for $10 million, I'd wear Dunlops every day.
I don't know if you'd be seen wearing Dunlops at a kicks party. But
for $10 million, I would.
Nick Metallinos, thank you very much for joining Fantasy Hoops. Again, we'll try and get you on in a couple of weeks' time. As he said, you can hit him up on Twitter, which is at Starting5 Online. That's with the number 5. Nick Metallinos as well. Starting5.com.au is the site that talks about everything to do with ball, and we're going to be following you pretty closely this year, listening to what's going on in a very enviable position.
I'll keep you guys updated with everything.
So, Nick, you're a champion. Thank you very much for joining the podcast and the listeners, and we'll be looking forward to talking to you again in a couple of weeks.
Look forward to it. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.